In this video I'm going to demonstrate how to use the StarDust Photoshop action. What the action does, it takes your photo and creates this type of look. Okay, and you can pick 5 different directions for all the effects to shoot out from. So let's go ahead and get started. So I've got a photo here. A few things you want to check before running the action. Just make sure your background layer is set as a background, so it should look like this. If it doesn't, and you open up your photo and it doesn't have the background text and the lock symbol, go to Layer, New Background from Layer, and it sets it as a background. Next you want to just check that you're in, if you go to Image Mode, you want to make sure in RGB color mode and 8 bits of channel is selected. And you also want to go into your Layer panel and hit this top right hand corner icon, go to Panel Options, and just make sure that this bottom one here, Add Copy to Copied Layers and Groups, is selected. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is load up our actions. So if you go to the Window menu, select Actions, the Actions panel will appear here over to the right, and if you click on this icon here, go to Load Actions and select the stardust.atn file, and it will appear here all ready to go. So to get this action to work, what you need to do is create a new layer, call it Brush. It all needs to be in lowercase for the action to work. Hit OK, and hit B on the keyboard to go to Separate Brush. Select a brush. I'm just going to use a soft brush here, and you can use any color. Let's get red. And what you want to do, you want to brush over your photo where you want to apply the effect. Alright, so I've just done one earlier here, so I've brushed over my photo. It's pretty rough, it doesn't need to be that accurate, so just keep that in mind. Now with this action, for this demonstration, I want all the effects to shoot off to the right, so I'm going to need a bigger canvas. So what I'm going to do firstly is go into Image, Canvas Size, and I want some extra room to the right here, so I'm just going to change this to pixels, and I'm going to add an extra 1200 pixels to the right, and I want just a little bit of room to the left here, so let's add say 300 pixels to the left. Okay, so I'm all set up, it's ready to go. The action takes about 3 minutes to run, so I'll fast forward the video to get to the results. So just select what direction you want to use. So I want it to go to the right, and you just want to click play. So click play and we'll go from there. Okay, so the action stopped, and this is what we have. So let's just minimize the actions panel, and we'll go into the layer panel now, and we'll go through all the ways you can customize the look of this. So the first thing you probably want to do is clean up, minimize all these folders, and a quick way to do that is if with the StarDust folder selected here on a PC, if you hold down Control Alt Command Option on a Mac and click on this arrow, it'll quickly collapse all the folders, so that way just neatens up everything. So let's go from the top here inside the Adjustments folder. The Adjustments folder just has a few bits and pieces you can use to adjust the overall look of your design, colors and contrasts and stuff like that. So from the top here, I've just kept the brush layer hanging around, so you can see that all the effects grow out from where we brushed. Okay, layer below, before, after, this just shows the original photo and what the action does. You can keep flicking back to the original to as you're working away. Overall color tint, this one's turned off. You can turn this one on, and what it will do is just apply some overall color to your photo, just like this, and you can use this drop down menu here and sort of scroll through different colors. Okay, so that's that one. Add saturation. This one is on by default, and it's just adding a bit of overall saturation to the image, so you can increase that or decrease that. You can also get crazy with the colors using this slider here. Alright, so I'll just reset that. Color options. So inside here is just a couple of different color options I've set up. You can just sort of click through these and see if you like any of those. Just keep in mind that by default option 5 is turned on, so any color changes that you make down below here is going to be affected as well by this layer. So that's the original colors there, and yeah, option 5. Okay, so going down, add contrast. This one's turned off by default. If you turn that one on, it just adds some overall contrast, and you can click and drag this word opacity to left and right to adjust the amount. Okay, so play around with that one. Turn one off. Sharpening, just by default I've got this one turned on. It just adds sharpening to the area that you brushed. You can just see that just makes it pop a bit there, but probably best if you're working away and changing a lot of things in the layers, just to turn that one off, and then, you know, at the end flatten your image and then sharpen it up that way. Okay, so moving on down, we have our main StarDust folder. So if I turn this one on and off, you can see that houses all the effects. So let's go inside. This top folder here, Flare, by default it's turned off. If you turn it on, inside it's just got a couple of different layers you can move around. So for example, Flare 2, I can move this, let's say, up to here. Flare 3, I can move this one down here. You know, you can hold down Alt and click and drag to duplicate it. You can rotate it, stuff like that. Okay, so keep that in mind. Dark and shadows. This one, if I turn this one on and off, you can see that it just helps keep a bit of definition in your photo, because it can be lost with all these lights happening. So just keep that in mind. That layer does that. Blurred glow spots. If you move this one around, you can see what that is. These generally hang around the edges of all the effects, and you can, you know, you can scale this to bring this in if you want, or you can scale it up, make it bigger. That's up to you. Wavy lines. Now, if I just move this one out down to the bottom, so we can, see what this is. So that's those effects there. So if I just put them back inside this folder, we have two different layers. We have our wavy lines outer. Now these lines will appear outside of the area that you brushed, and wavy lines inner will appear on the inside. So if I turn this one on and off, you can see that there. And what I like to do with these layers is, if you want it to be stronger, the effect, just select it and go Control J to duplicate it, and see you can boost the intensity of it. And so now we've got a few more layers. Now what I can do, I can shift select those layers, go Control E to flatten it, set this blend mode to add. Okay, so now we have the effect on one layer, and we can, you know, freely move that around wherever we want. And that same applies for the wavy lines outer. You can duplicate that to make it brighter. You know, flatten them and move them around. Okay. Going on down, we have edge light. I'll move this folder down so you can see what that's doing. That's all these effects that hang around the outside of where you brushed, and it just boosts the light around there. Now, if the action stopped and it's looking too bright around your photo, you can either turn this folder off altogether, or just go inside and you have these two layers. You could turn one off, it's too intense, or leave one on, or maybe adjust the opacity that way. Overall glow, if I turn this one on and off, you can see that adds all this light here. So if you go inside this folder, we have this layer here, change glow color. This one's important, so if you double click on this one, you can use this hue slider to actually change the color of the glow. Alright, so that's a really cool one to play around with. And you can use this saturation slider. By default it's up pretty high, but if you bring that down, you notice it reduces the intensity of the colors. So if the action stops and it looks far too intense, just lower this down. We also have the lightness control. You can adjust that as well. You can also select the overall glow layer here, and you know, move that around to left and right, up and down. You could even Control T, scale it, scale it down. Alright, so that's the overall glow folder. Soft motion light is just a subtle layer that sits over the top of your photo. You can see that there if I move that out to left and right. Outer glow, another subtle effect. Main photo. Now this photo keeps the most amount of definition in the area that you brush. So if I turn this one on and off, you can see that you can see what that's doing there. Layer below, main photo motion light. If I move this one around, so you can see that it's that effect that sits over the top of your photo. Now I've added a layer mask to this, so if you just select the mask and grab a brush, hit B on the keyboard, grab a black color, and if you brush into the mask, you can actually temporarily sort of hide that layer, so you can reveal some of the effects below underneath it, which can in some cases create a really cool effect. But if you don't want it, you can hold down shift to hide that, or brush white to bring it back to its original look. Okay, Stardust 1, this just is some little speckles. You can see if I move this one down, just looking at the bottom here, all these little dots that hang around right at the edges of everything. So if you want to make that more prominent, you can of course just scale this up. So now you can see those little dots hanging around the edges much more. Okay, glow spots. If I turn this one on and off, you can see that houses all these effects here. Now these folders have layer masks, so say for example you don't want all these glow spots on the left hand side, you can just click on this folder mask, again grab a black brush and just brush away, and you'll hide all those effects. Okay, so I'll just keep them on. So inside here you have all your different layers which you can move around individually. Put one that's a bit more prominent, like this one here. Don't forget, you can always just duplicate the layers, Control J to create more dots. Move them around, scale them, rotate them. Okay. Motion light. I'll move this folder down so you can see that this is all these streaks that sort of stream off from where you brushed in the direction that you chose. So that's those. You can also experiment with these folders, just changing the blend mode. So I can change this to lighten, scroll down, and you can see you can get different types of blending modes. So soft light looks pretty cool. Just by default it's on pass through, so keep that in mind. And inside the motion light folder you have all these different layers here that sort of stack and help build the overall look. Alright, so again, don't forget to experiment with duplicating layers. If you want to add a bit more sort of waviness to these layers, so if I move this one down like this, what you could do, if you go to filter, distort, wave, you can play around these settings and you can see it's just added some subtle wave effects. You can sort of apply that to a bunch of these layers inside this folder to mix things up. Going on down, we have burst light. If I turn this one on and off, you can see, if you look to the left hand side, it's like an explosive light that comes out of everything. So if you want to make that a bit more prominent, again, just zoom out a bit, Control T to scale it. Scale it up and you can see there's the effect there. So you can scale that up a bit like that. So now it's much more prominent. Soft Stardust, I'll move this one down. So again, just tiny little dots that sit at the back of everything to add a bit of overall texture. If it's too much, you can turn that one on or off. Moving on down, outside of the Stardust folder, we have a backing photo. Now if I turn this one on and off, you'll see that it does basically nothing. Alright, so the way this layer works is that if you select the Stardust folder and select the mask, and again get a black brush, you can brush away anything that's inside that Stardust folder that you don't want. say if you don't want any of the effects applied throughout the body here, you can just brush away like that, and because it's going to fall down onto our backing photo. So if I turn that one on and off, you can see that there. Okay, so just keep that in mind, that if it's getting a bit too messy over the top of your photo, just use the mask and brush away onto it, and it'll fall down onto your backing photo. Alright, going down, we have our cloud texture. This is just a subtle texture that blends with the background layer, so I'll turn this one on and off. Which is probably better if by default the opacity is set to 20. If you turn this one up, it's just a subtle effect, subtle texture that sits in the background. You can turn that one on and off, it's up to you. Now, background color, just double click on this box to change, you can change the color to whatever you want, just like that. Okay, now another thing to keep in mind with this background layer, that by default it's got a gradient overlay to create like a vignette effect. So if you turn that one off, you can see what that's doing, so just keep that in mind. Now another thing, if you want to use say a white background, so if I double click on this and go up to the top here, you'll notice that you can see a lot of the definition, a lot of the form out of the streaks is lost. Now if you want to bring all that back, just select the StarDust folder and change the blend mode to normal. You can see that a lot of colors come back and a lot more definition. And also remember that the reason why the background is looking like a cream color, even though we've chosen white, is because inside the adjustments folder we have our color option turned on. Okay, so I'll turn that one off. You see that that's our original colors. Okay, now if you want to import your own background, I'll just change this back to a blue. If you want to import your own background, all you need to do is hide, the cloud texture, the background color, and your background layer, and now you can see that all the effects sit on a transparent background. So all you need to do then is just go to File, Place, choose your background, and it will appear underneath all the effects, and you're ready to go. Okay, so that is how you use the StarDust Photoshop action.